This is West Tigers Radio. Thanks so much for listening in. Well, through the 2022 West Tigers season, we intend to jump online after every West Tigers game and give you a bit of a review of what happened in that match. Our first go at this was from outside of Leichhardt Oval. Declan McCutcheon, Eddie Otto, Steve Stretton and Gary Watson all attended the trial against the Manly Sea Eagles in February 2022. And here's how we went for our first go.
Full time, Manly 28, West Tigers 4, 12-4 at half time. Steve, that first half, there's probably a lot more to talk about out of that first half. Start with some of the, what I thought were the positives. The young fullback, Logan Dillon, he appears to have a little bit of speed at least.
Yeah, I thought he had quite a good game, and the speed in the team was quite obvious actually with him and Gildart and Madden as well. So some of the things about Logan Dillon, like he was probably the standout young guy from what I saw. But the question is, what do you do with him? With Dane Laurie sort of got the fullback spot wrapped up. I suppose we've got someone there as good backup. I don't know whether there's any other position he can fill, but yeah, certainly looked good tonight.
Declan, he was a player that you were looking forward to seeing coming into this game. Did he impress you, the fullback?
Yeah, he really did. He had a bit of a rough start, obviously, with that high ball, but I thought he did really well to kind of compose himself, and I thought he nearly had his first try assist as well, but that got overturned by the bunker. But yeah, I thought he looked pretty good. Obviously, first time in first grade, so hopefully he can get some game time next week.
Gary, Oliver Gildart, he started at left centre tonight, probably not involved a whole lot, but he's got flashes of speed.
He looks fairly quick. He looked very small out on the field, though, I thought. Both our centres actually tonight, I thought we looked a little undersized in the centre, probably one of the smallest centre combination I've seen. But he does have some speed, and I think there is some stuff there to work on. I need to see a little bit more game time for him to actually have a particular opinion, but there was some promising things there. He looks quick.
Steve, there weren't obviously many points, just the one try for the West Tigers. We did have a disallowed try, but it was a nice combination there with Brooks linking up with Tuilagi on that left-hand side. I think they combined a couple of times there and once for that try.
Yeah, I thought in the first 20 minutes our attack, when we were actually attacking the opposition as opposed to coming off our line, I thought looked quite sharp. Whilst Peachy was out there, I thought Peachy, midway through the set was going into first receiver, pushing our pivots, one out wider, and allowed our attack to be a lot more expansive. And for that 20 minutes or so before Peachy went off, our attack when we used the ball had good structure and looked sharp.
Declan, what did you make of the spine, besides the young fella? I thought Jock Madden had a couple of nice kicks, a couple of average ones, and Jacob Liddell got through the 40 minutes.
Yeah, I would probably say that they probably didn't get too much opportunity. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that Jock Madden had some really nice kicks, but then I also thought he kind of got caught out a little bit in defence. And I think Brooks, he kind of had that nice try assist to Tuilagi, but then he was kind of quiet as well. I think it was kind of the muchness, to be fair. It was kind of not too much you can write home about.
Steve, were there any forwards in that first half that impressed you? You mentioned you thought Tyrone Peachy struggled a little, even though he did seem to get into that first receiver role a fair bit of time.
Yeah, I thought for the short time he was on, I was impressed with the way he helped our attack, take the ball wider. Again, that opening stanza, I was impressed with both our second rowers. I thought Luciano Leilua came out with a point to prove, and I thought Tuilagi was very good as well. Other than that, coming off our line, we still weren't making post contact meters, and Manly coming off their line were getting all the momentum. So they're still in tight. I didn't see much difference, to be honest. But our back rowers I thought were quite good early.
Declan, looking at the forward packet, that rain set in about 15 minutes into the first half and it became quite sloppy. Anyone stand out to you in that first half?
Yeah, I'll probably have to say both back rowers. I thought Tuilagi and Leilua, I thought they were really good. I thought Leilua especially, he managed to kind of break down the defence a little bit compared to the other forwards. And I thought, Tuilagi obviously did a great job to get that ball down. So, I'll probably agree with everyone else. So I'd say both back rowers were really, really good.
Okay, that's probably all from the first half. Do you have anyone else, Gary, that you wanted to mention, either on the good or the bad side? Some people would possibly bag Nofaluma. A couple of tries came down his side, although, that Manly left side is fairly deadly. And we did handle them okay on a couple of occasions, despite letting a couple in.
Yeah, he was still getting caught out a number of times. A couple of times he rushed in again. And not just on plays they scored. He actually rushed in and hit their centre quite well, which caused the ball to go into touch at one stage. So it was a bit of a mixed bag. I did say to Steve partway through the first half, where he did that 30-metre run across field, that I think in his mind that's 30 metres game. So I just have that kind of feeling. He probably thinks it was a better game than what he actually had. Look, it was a proper trial. It was a normal trial. There's a lot for us to work on. So hopefully the boys hit the ground on Monday and get back more on the ball.
Right, boys, let's have a look at the second half. And like I said at the intro, I thought it was a bit of a blunder in the second half, to be expected. Both sides pretty much changing, just about their whole 13 on the field. Declan, two young guys that I thought stood out a little bit with the hooker. Rua, he's a bit of a Brandon Smith lookalike, at least in build. And I think the young 5'8", Tapai, 26, he looks like he's got a little bit of pace about
it. Yeah, obviously Rua, I kind of tapped before this game. I thought, because obviously Jacob Liddell was the only known hooker who had played first grade, so I kind of thought that he was going to get some time in the second half. And I thought he was really good. He was really aggressive, not only in attack, but also defence. Like, he was trying to put the shots on people, and he was tackling low, and he was hitting hard. He tried his best, and he had some good runs. I thought he was really unlucky not to have that try awarded. It looked fine to me, but obviously the Leichhardt TVs aren't that great. But in terms of the 5'8", he was a bit of a surprise packet, because he didn't really play that much New South Wales Cup last year. He kind of came in and filled a spot when there was an injury, so it was good to see him play well also.
Yeah, just to digress for a minute, one thing that annoyed me tonight was the use of the bunker. Gary, I mean, it's a trial game. Does anyone really want to see the bunker? There are about 5 or 6 tries that were allowed that were pulled back, and then the game went for about 3 hours in the end.
Yeah, and I actually have a sneaking suspicion. I want to watch a bit more football before I'm sure about it, but I'm sure the referee got tipped off on a couple of calls during the gameplay, because there was a couple of late calls come in. There was one for a Shepherd against us, I think in the second half, and to me it looked like that the referee was actually getting calls for in-game. So I really don't want to see more involvement, more people in the referee's views. I think there's too much already, and I was very shocked to see that it's a trial. The score doesn't really matter, so I don't really know why we need a bunker in a trial.
Yeah, I'd be a fan of just going with your 2 captains' challenges and that's it. But I don't think that's probably ever going to happen. Just staying with you, Gary, for a minute. Were there any young guys in that second half that caught your eye?
Yeah, pretty much the same as you guys. I thought Rule was really strong. He looks like one to keep an eye on. What I will say, I was a little bit disappointed in the senior guys who played in the second half. Joffa and Seafarth wasn't too bad, but Joffa and Twilight, I don't think their impact was quite as big as what I'd expect playing against the class of players they were. So that kind of... And one I was really disappointed. Tukey Simpkins, for me, he looked about 10 years off first grade. After the first set of 6 in that second half, he looked to be dead on his feet already. I caught him bludging a few times out on the wing in defence. I think he's got a lot of work to do before we'll see him in first grade again. Yeah,
a couple of the runs reminded me a bit of, Andrew Fafita when he's playing badly, where he's just sort of running across the field and thinking offload rather than run first. Steve Musgrove was another one I was looking out for. Probably, I thought he looked a little bit sluggish out there as well against Manly's second team.
Yeah, I'm glad you come to me with Zane Musgrove, because I've said before, he's one bloke that I was really hoping would stamp his authority and be one of our real leaders in the middle. And I watched him. I made mention in the game to Gary. I sort of watched him and him alone for about 5 or 6 minutes, and in that period he did absolutely nothing. And I thought he was really disappointing. I know it's just one game. I know it's their first hit out, but tonight was an opportunity for him to make a point and prove himself a little bit and show that he's there to make a difference. And I thought he wasted that opportunity. I thought he was very poor.
Declan, what about the young outside backs? We probably think that the likes of Marmalo and Nofaluma and will get starting spots alongside Jack Roberts, who didn't play tonight. But could there be a smoky? Junior Palga played the whole of the first half and some of the second half, and the young winger that we signed in the off-season started that second half.
I wouldn't really say that Palga did a lot that would make you think he was a smoky. I'm not sure. I know that James Roberts was named there, so he might have picked up an injury beforehand. But yeah, I think that if you're starting Junior Palga in your first grade trial, then I think that's a bit of a cause for concern. But yeah, besides that, there's the other outside backs. They didn't really get much opportunity, I think, in that game. There was a wet condition. The ball didn't really find them too much. I think that the thing with Junior Tupou with me that I took away is it looks like he's got a lot of filling out in his body. He's got that really tall frame. He just needs to put on a little bit of muscle, and I think that he kind of didn't really get much opportunity tonight. So hopefully we see him play maybe a little bit of flag in New South Wales Cup, and then maybe towards the end of the season we'll see him debut.
Okay, boys. Well, next week is our final trial against the Roosters. You'd think, Declan, that Madge would want to put out a pretty strong side again because obviously, pretty handily beaten tonight. Jackson Hastings not playing. You'd like to see him back at least for next week.
Yeah, I think that next week's really important because, not only do you want to see Hastings and Luke Brooks together, but you also kind of want to see how Dane Laurie fits into this whole equation. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that combination is developed because we've heard a lot about it, but I just think that tonight was really disappointing because, defensively, I thought if you took away that try for Trbojevic at the end of the first half, I thought, you could say they did a reasonably good job on them. But I think for me, the attack just looked really, really similar to last year. It didn't really look like we were trying to clearly achieve anything or isolate anyone or put someone into space, which was really frustrating. So I think next week's going to be really interesting to see if adding Jackson Hastings gives us that little bit more potency and Dane Laurie that we were missing tonight.
Okay, so a little bit scratchy here and there. We intend to improve our audio quality moving forward, but we do hope you can join us after every West Tigers match for our immediate thoughts on how that game went. Hopefully, through 2022, we're talking about plenty of wins, but we'll see how we go. Thanks again for listening to West Tigers Radio.